I'd like to welcome you to this short video on the Kagan Strategies, which are cooperative learning short strategies. Well, Kagan also is, over the last 10 years, come to the forefront as the big guru. He makes a lot of money doing this. His are not so much groups that stay together for 6 weeks or periods of time. They are very quick, down and dirty types of activities that you can get kids to practice material to move from short-term to long-term memory. A lot of neat little things that get kids active. I think you get the gist. And many of you, I'm sure, have even gone to his training. But it is a little bit worth your while to explore. And if you get a chance to read his books, go through what he asked. We're just going to give you a real quick flavor for 7 or 8 of the types of techniques that many teachers are finding very positive in their classroom. But again, he has a focus on individual accountability and positive interdependence, and big on equal participation. And what separates him from the Johnson and Slavin models are the spontaneous interaction. That is, they don't stay in one group for any great length of time. It occurs at different times throughout the teaching and instructional times. And so let's look at a couple. For example, pairs checks is one of the simple ways to get started with the Kagan. And I don't know if we, this has been around for a long time, but getting kids to check each other's work. They can check their math problems. And again, you put them on the clock. Okay, you got 30 seconds. I want you to check your partner's work. Figure out if you both got the same answer, and if not, and if you don't have the right answer, explain why it's right. Or you can have them turn to their partner and to restate what you did or what you stated in their own words. But they're usually quick, down and dirty ways to get kids to share the information with one another and put it into their own words. Again, you put them on the clock too. I think pair share is where you pose a problem to kids, and they think about it. You put them on. A lot of times these have clocks. They could be timers. They could be PowerPoint timers, but you put them on the clock. You have them think about the question for 30 seconds, and then you put them in a pair to discuss that question. And these could be more intro types of questions, ASETs, but to see what divergent thinking comes up. But then during the share time, students are called upon to share what they brainstormed in their discussions. Again, use a countdown timer to keep kids on the clock and to pace your lesson. Numbered heads together is a cool way. My wife loves this. Your chairs are numbered, but teacher poses the question, and again, think time is given, and then says butts up, or you might not say that in a secondary school, but heads together. And then they lean to the center of the table, and they have 30 seconds or the like to share their answer. And then when the bell rings or your signal is given, they sit down, and you spin a spinner, or sometimes on the overhead, or we even have automatic ones now for the smart boards. But you choose a number. For example, it could be 4, and then the pupil from that team that's designated number 4 would pick up the whiteboard or a sheet of paper, and they write their answer and stand up, and they do it all in silence, and then you give a signal, and which team shows their answer, and you see who's right and who's wrong. And there's variations of that. You could even spin it twice, and then the person, like the 4th person, has to stand up, and then you spin it again. And if it's table 3, then that person, the 4th person at table 3, has to answer. A lot of different ways. You get kids to think on their own, think put it together as a group and then share answers. Showdown is where you use a pile of cards on the table, and they're question cards. A lot of times kids can make it for their own, but in a group of four, you had to have the kid pick up the top card, read the question, and they write their answer silently on a piece of paper, or if you get the whiteboards there, when they're finished, and you again put them on the clock, you give them the ready signal, and you call showdown sometimes, and they reveal their answers, and those that get it right get some high fives, and those need some coaching, have the wrong answer, are given time to get it corrected. The rally robin involves students taking turns sharing information. It gets kind of hard near the end. One person says a word or an idea, then the next person has to do another idea, and then it goes back and forth until you're out of ideas on the subject. This is good for multiple, like the steps of photosynthesis. See if you could brainstorm all of those. And kind of hard at times. The round robins, when you kind of use a table, and again you go in a clockwise or counterclockwise service, a counterclockwise rotation. Again, you could use information on a piece of paper where instead of orally, they have to write something different down about that concept you taught, and works too. Here on a rally coach, partners take turns solving a problem while the other coaches. That is, could be a math problem, could be a scientific problem, but one guy's the coach, kind of like the teacher, and then you reverse roles and they give clues. But sometimes this is used when you might be forgetting things like from previous lessons. And then maybe some new information if you wanted to kind of introduce it in a different way where kids wouldn't know. And sometimes a rally coach won't be a whole lot of help at that time. Quiz trade. Each kid has a question card with the answer on the other side, and they can make it themselves or you can have it made, but it could be the major questions on your test tomorrow or the major objective of your thing. And so each kid is given one of those cards, and so they put their hand in the air to indicate that they don't have a partner. And typically you control that by giving them a countdown. You got a minute. Then at the end of the minute, bell rings, and then you meet another partner, and then you ask your question, and they have to answer it, and then they'll ask their question, you have to answer it. You can keep, and it's best, I think, you swap cards, so that now you've got a new piece of information that you become an authority on, and by the time you finish, you might have all the questions if you got a large class. But kids are up and moving and about the class, and you might have to teach the behaviors you want as you do that. Find the fib, I think it's cool. I kind of use that to introduce you yourself because kids like those kind of game shows. You could write down 3 or 4 statements on a piece of paper about the information you learned, and then one of them has to be a false premise, a false piece of information, and then you can have pass them around and have the teammates guess which is the fib. I also think it's a great way to introduce yourself. When you're doing group work and you have different projects going on, especially if you adopt multiple intelligences and those types of authentic projects, you can give a specific time during your class period where a member from each group goes out and they ask other teams what they're doing, and then they come back and report what they've gathered from their research. Love this one for elementary and middle school. It works real well for the semester or for a time period, especially if kids have their own desk or have a planner. You develop a assignment clock, and then the first 10 days you would have them one day pick 12 partners that they're going to work with. And typically, the teacher will say, okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to find a 1 o'clock partner. And then what you do, you exchange your papers, and each one signs the 1 o'clock thing. And then, all right, you got 15 seconds to find your 2 o'clock partner. And typically, kids will go to their best friends, and so probably after 3 or 4 clocks, you've got your best friends. Now you got to start finding other people. By the time you get to 10 or 11, you're at people that maybe you aren't as familiar with in the middle school or secondary school. And so it's a great way. And then what you do, you put it in the desk or the planner, and the kids have to bring it every day. And so you simply say, all right, let's use your 11 o'clock partner today, and we're going to do whatever activity that could be your partner for the day. A good way to make sure that you move kids around throughout the time. But those are Kagan activities, and there's many more. And your book is going to have in chapter 6 a list of over 50 different strategies that make learning fun. They're not just Kagan strategies, but over time, just things we've collected that, and they can work for graduate students down to kindergarten kids if you adapt them right to make learning and to make activities that move from short-term to long-term memory. But I think cooperative learning offers a lot of vehicles to teach those things that are really important in life. And Gandhi said, if we're to reach a real peace in the world, we have to begin by teaching cooperation to kids. And a lot of times they don't get that at home. In fact, they see the opposite of that. And I'm pretty well convinced your success in life is very much based on your ability to work with others, whether it be in a marriage, whether it be in a family, whether it be in a job or a church or whatever group you operate in. Most of your life, you're moving in and out of different groups, and knowing how to do that is, I think, a tremendous asset. It's also a model that is fun. Learning's great because we cooperate. It's no longer cheating to get somebody to help you. When I was in school, that was cheating, because 2 heads are better really than 1, and most businesses understand that. And in fact, as you work now in most any business climate, it is one that looks for cooperation. It looks for the ability to help one another so the company succeeds. And cooperation, I love this one, is doing with a smile what you're going to do anyway. And teaching that it can be fun is a lifelong skill. Learn this being an athlete myself in basketball and teamwork. You can be the best individual in the world, but if you can't gel with your other teammates, you're going to sink. We, as a team, will sink or swim together, and countries have found that when they're divided, they tend to fall. So it is working together that really makes or breaks a lot of different types of activities. Love this one too. Snowflakes are one of the nature's most fragile things, but look what they can do when they stick together. Can make a lot of beautiful things. But I saw all of these on posters in different classrooms as I visited. Well, I hope that you believe that cooperative learning could be one of the models that you use and adopt, because a lot of good things that you can teach when it comes to not only academic objectives, but the social objectives in each of these lessons. But all of these Well, now I challenge you to go out and try some of these with your own students, and I'll bet you find that they do work.